Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I will finally take a closer look at the Sega Dreamcast. I never had a Dreamcast back in the days, so now when I finally decided to incorporate the Dreamcast in my gaming system, I wanted to address some of the console's technical shortcomings. When Dreamcast was released in Japan back in 1998, it was a very forward-thinking console. It was the first console that took the step from lower resolutions such as 240p and 480i into 480p, but more about that soon. First, let's address one of the Dreamcast's biggest issues in my opinion, the infamous loud fan. If you've ever turned on a Dreamcast, you will instantly notice how loud the fan is. Probably the loudest fan I have ever experienced. So the stock fan in this console has been replaced with a noctuous silent fan, which makes a huge difference. Another issue with the Dreamcast was the controller fuse. It could sometimes result in the controller port not working. Yet another issue with the console was that the internal battery had a tendency to die and you had to enter the date and time each time you booted up the console. Both of these issues have been fixed in this console. Check out Mark Fixes Stuff's channel here on YouTube on how to change your controller fuse and internal battery. So the final internal modification I wanted in my console was to change the PSU. My console is a North American one and I live in Europe, so I was looking for a safe and reliable PSU that doesn't generate much heat. There are quite a few different third-party alternatives out there. After doing some research, I went and ordered a Robot Retro PSU from Dragonbox, a German seller. The first one they sent me didn't actually work for some reason, even though I was using a cable that had enough voltage that should work. But the guys over at Dragonbox recommended me to use a power cable for the Steam Deck, and they were kind enough to send me another PSU, and this worked great. Oh, I forgot maybe the most important thing, the GD menu. The GD menu is a popular ODE, an optical disc emulator. This way you don't need to go out and hunt for rare and expensive Dreamcast games. Of course, you're welcome to do so if you enjoy that. So yeah, I also installed a GD menu into this console and with a very handy way to insert the SD memory card into the console. Simple and easy, that's how we like it. So now we've changed the battery, the fan, the PSU and the fuse for the controller port as well as installed a GD menu. Let's go over to the most important part, the video cable. In the case of Dreamcast, this is a bit of a jungle, probably more tricky than any other console. Basically, the Dreamcast outputs 480i and 480p. If you just want to hook up your old PC monitor and get great results, you can use a VGA cable and you're good to go. But a lot of games on Dreamcast were not compatible with 480p and instead relied on 480i. For this case, Sega also released a VGA box which allowed you to switch between interlaced and progressive signal. And to make things even more confusing, there were also a smaller number of games that supported 240p, especially some of Capcom and SNK's arcade ports for the Dreamcast. For those who are using a modern flat screen, the best solution is probably to install a HDMI mod, such as DC Digital or the one from PixelFX. But what if you, like me, prefer to game the old school way on a CRT? The guys over at Retro Gaming Cables have released this component cable. These cables also have a small switch that toggles 480i and 480p, and they have been tested on professional monitors, which is important for me since a lot of the different cable options have issues with the Sony BVM monitors, which causes a flagging image issue. This has been the case for me when I tried some of the previous different cable options. But according to Retro Gaming Cables, this issue is not present with these component cables. We will see about that soon. Here is the switch that allows you to toggle between interlaced and progressive scan. It seems like the build quality of these cables is really good and I hope it will show in the video output. I am really happy that there exists a cable option for the Dreamcast that is plug and play and also covers all the different resolution outputs of the console. Now when I had everything I needed, I could finally bring forward all my accessories for my Dreamcast. A VMU that allows me to save within the games, a brand new controller that I bought many years ago, a Dreamcast arcade stick, And finally, a Sega Dreamcast light gun. For some reason this was never released in North America. A bummer indeed. Let's head over to my setup and try some games. First impressions are really good. GD menu works fine, and now we can access the entire Dreamcast library simply from an SD memory. So let's try a fighting classic on the Dreamcast. The colors are fantastic, and I can assure you that in person this simply looks amazing. It's crazy how well the Dreamcast graphics are holding up more than 25 years later. The modding scene for the Dreamcast is one of the best out there. One clever modder that goes by the name Megavolt85 has managed to port almost the entire library of the Atomic Wave arcade board to the Dreamcast. Atomic Wave was an arcade board that was built on the same hardware as Dreamcast, so now you can enjoy games like Dolphin Blue on your Dreamcast. Most of these games never had official ports to any home consoles.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
And yes, the Sega light gun works really nice on House of the Dead.
How could anyone do this? Gee! Harry and Amy are coming to...
And let's try out the Sega arcade stick.
The time of retribution. That one decide the destiny.
What I don't currently have in my gaming setup is a racing wheel for my Dreamcast. So if any of you have any good recommendations, please leave them in the comment sections below. So that's all for this time, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any comments and suggestions for future videos in the comment section, and I see you next time.